Hello, listener. I am your dove AP.
And I'm your dove Marcy.
We're joined by
Annie, Howard.
Yeah, we got one of the best music writers in Chicago. Not just a music writer, we have a historian, an urbanist, an organizer, and someone who loves Bjork.
She's my mother.
We are gonna talk about the 1995 album Post by Bjork. Some say it's a hyper ballad, some say it's a hyper pop. It is actually not hyper pop. But what you can hyper pop into is giving us a like, a share, a follow, and subscribe wherever you may be listening to this beautiful podcast today.
Yeah, and tune into this one because it's a great one. We get brainy, we get vulnerable, we talk about Rosalia, everything you'd ever want in a podcast.
We do handstands as well. We have everything here. Jump on in, y'all.
And it's, I don't know, I'm currently writing, I just finished writing something about the term transgender, which comes into vogue in the 90s. Really, like, it goes from like 0 to 100 in that decade and replaces transsexual and transvestite. And there's just so much about that moment where it's like the Cold War ends. We're supposed to be excited about the future of capitalism and US, whatever. And then the internet, before it gets just completely, oh, this is actually bad for everybody, there is optimism. And there are trans people in San Francisco that are doing exciting, interesting things at the beginning of the internet with the internet and using like cool digital technology. So it's like I'm looking back at that stuff and I'm looking back at like a lot of interesting trans history in that moment. So I'm like coming around on the 90s in like a very specific way. And there is a lot of also interesting music, which I'm glad we're getting to talk about today.
Yeah.
The 90s ain't bad as a decade, I think. You know, it's not the 30s, it's not the 40s, right? But it's like, but like bringing up the dolls in San Francisco, it reminds me that in the 90s, also the Internet Archive started out in the 90s out of San Francisco, which is maybe the place I read a book about the person that we are covering today. Hello, I am your dove AP.
And I am your dove Marcy.
And today we are joined by a tornado. You heard that Illinois has been hit by tornadoes again and again and again and again, and it's the windiest, most whirling place in the world in 2026, and that is right because we have a tornado of a creative writer right here.
We've got Annie Howard.
The tornado really here is Bjork, but I'll take the compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, Annie is a journalist, historian, urbanist, and organizer, host of City Dreams on Lumpen Radio, writer for Chicago Reader, Pitchfork, Jacobin, so many more, working on her first book, The City Made Me Trans, and an organizer of Dyke Night at Bernice's. How do you do that? When do you sleep?
I sleep a decent amount, I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
I don't know how I squeeze it all in, but we're out here.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then you have the time to like spin up a whirlwind around you and then destroy Illinois. That's a multi-hyphenate, if I've ever met one.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here, and genuinely I'm so excited to talk about Bjork, truly one of my favorites, and there's going to be a lot to say.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Bjork, and specifically Bjork's 1995 album, Post.
Yeah, this is her second album, and if you've been living under a rock, Bjork is an Icelandic singer, songwriter, producer, genius, so many things. And yeah, I mean, this is an art pop album. This is an electronic album, a dance album. There's so many genres in here. Bjork's like, I'm going to throw all the genres in.
She definitely saw the entire world, squeezed it out for its best pieces, and then put it in vinyl. And we're better for it.
Yeah. Before we get too much into it, let's talk about our history with Bjork. Annie, why don't you start?
Oh, goodness. You're going to let me start. I'm going to go for too long. Well, okay. So I don't think I can say like I know for sure that this was my first Bjork album. I think she's one of those that's just sort of like the osmosis of being a teenager that's like trying to learn about music, reading a lot of Pitchfork end of year lists, end of decade lists, that sort of thing. I think the first time that I'm like, okay, this is an album that I should be listening to right now while it's fresh was her album from 2015, I want to say, or maybe 14, Volnikhara, where she's breaking up with her partner, Matthew Barney. And that album is very intense. I think I had not experienced heartbreak in that way yet, but I think it was just like fascinating to see an artist really contend with it. And then it's one of those things where I didn't, again, this is like such a strange thing to look back on. In 2022, I flew out to San Francisco to see her perform. I don't think I had like listened to her so much more in the years between. I knew I got more of a grasp of her work, but there was just something where I was like, okay, I think I need to see her. And it was easily the best show I've ever been to. It really felt like she was giving me a lot of direct instructions on making some hard changes in my life from the stage. And ever since, she's just been like so foundational for me, and just someone who I just really respect the range of collaborators she works with, the relentless curiosity that she has towards her craft. She's just funny and like weird and charming and interesting. And there's so much more I could say about her as a person, but like she's one of those people where I can like, I trust that if Bjork says something, it's coming from the heart and from a really deep place in her. Yeah, I could say a lot more, but I'll stop there for now.
Amazing. AP, can you try to top that? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I could try to bottom it. I have known Bjork my entire life. No different than Cher. But I actually listen to Cher. Bjork is not really a artist that I really listened to until I was in my mid to late teens, when I was really getting into music and music forums and music review, and also just this world of music that I haven't explored. When I was developing my taste, and she was one of those artists that I only knew really by name, kind of like at the time Fiona Apple, or like Alanis Morissette, or these other big 90s like singers. And of course, being a little know-nothing, I just kind of started listening to music randomly, and I think the first song that I really fell in love with was Big Time Sensuality, which is like so me at the time, because I was also into a lot of 90s swing revival music. Look, I'm being vulnerable in this podcast, but that's kind of my history with Bjork.
Well, I feel like I'm again probably the person who has the least experience with Bjork, but that's okay because I feel like I'm getting Bjork pilled this month. And so Bjork is someone who my sister loved, and I tried listening to her when I was younger, and I was like, what is going on here? Which I feel like, you know, I was too much of a normie. I needed to trans myself before I could fully get it. I remember someone at a party a few years ago trying to get me into Bjork and being like, if you don't get it sober, try mushrooms. But I haven't quite gotten there yet either. So I hope maybe the stars will align and I'll get the true Bjork experience soon. But I was actually talking about Bjork with Annie a few months ago, and Annie very nicely provided me a list of Bjork songs from different albums to listen to, and I feel like that's what started working, is just listening to those songs over and over again, and it made me want to listen to like an entire Bjork album. And I was like, you know what? Let's just bring Annie on the pod and we'll talk Bjork, and here we are.
Can I share that little, like, I think it's
Yeah.
like 5 songs, just for the listeners at home if you are also new to it. Let's see, I had this pulled up. So I know for sure we're going to talk about Hyperballed,
Yes.
which is on that list. Pagan Poetry from Vespertine. just, oh my goodness. I'm going to embarrass myself and I'm not going to get into each song individually. Crystalline from Biophilia has like a very fun, almost like a drop in it, which is unusual for
I think
her.
that one's probably my favorite, at least right now.
It's very good. And then Tabula Rasa is like not necessarily like a bigger song of hers, but Utopia is the album that I saw her perform. That's the song where it felt like she was most giving me direct instructions. I would also add All Is Full of Love. It's at the end of Vespertine. And it's just, or no, is that Homogenic? Anyways, she just really sees a very big perspective on love, on human connection, on getting to just be vulnerable in your art and really like bring others into this big feeling of, holy cow, we get to be alive and feel all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And today we're talking specifically about Post, which was her second album. And so this is, Annie provided some videos that kind of gave us some background, and I'll link those videos in the description just in case people want to see some of our notes. But like one thing I appreciated was like how it went into kind of like each of the different genres that she brought into this, and how it wasn't necessarily about like telling like one cohesive story like she like her future albums are, but kind of just like taking all the ideas that were in her brain and like putting them into the album and like continuously working on it until she thought it was good enough. Like at a certain point she's like, no, we got to add more strings in here. Like this doesn't feel alive enough. AP, did you feel alive when you listened to this?
I am so alive. And normally when someone adds string to pop music, I am all about that, just as Britney Spears. But when someone adds a horn section to music, I become a supernova of just love and affection towards it. And we're going to talk about a lot of music today. And my only real thought about Post in the negative is I needed more horns. Well, that, and I also needed a little bit more West African like influence, because this album is so close to being world music, like the genre of world music, which I'm a big fan of. And I might be looking at the past, hoping to see something different, but outside of those two things, I enjoyed the album. It didn't speak to me per se. It spoke to me in the absence. And so like, which I'll get into in a bit, but I enjoyed listening to this. I listened to it 5 times over the last week.
So can I share some good news with you?
Yeah.
And I hadn't really listened to this until we were getting ready for this, but there's a whole remix album called Telegram that is all the songs from this. And I'm trying to remember which one. There's definitely some more horns on one of them. But it's also just like, so, I mean, one of the things that is so fascinating about Bjork, and again, like I consider myself at this point a pretty good fan of hers, and there's still so much of her stuff that I haven't listened to, specifically because, again, the remix culture that she specifically is like very supportive of and helped a lot of other artists to work with her stuff is just incredible. And for this album, it's called Telegram, and all but one of the songs I think gets a remix. There's one other additional song. Some things get some like very different context. So like Hyperballed, she collaborates with the Brodsky Quartet, which is like this really incredible contemporary classical thing. So it gives it this very dramatic, very like chamber orchestra thing. Cover Me, which is in the album, just very like spare and minimal, and like just the little harp sounds, becomes this incredible drum and bass thing. There's like a trip hop thing happening with, I want to say it's Oh So Quiet or one of the other songs. Anyways, I would recommend that. Again, I hadn't really listened to it until this last week, and I was like, she's just infinitely malleable with how her voice and how her compositions can change over time. And I think I've read her talking about she wants to be able to approach every tour with her whole discography in mind and to say, like, how can this basic composition live in a different way? So when I saw her do Isabel in 2022, it was very different than it was on any recording previously.
That's cool. I like how, as we're talking, we're also developing a syllabus.
She is someone you can keep studying forever. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, kind of as you were talking about earlier, it's like she has this big brain, but like so many emotions come out of her, and she inspires so many emotions from people. So I kind of like how there's like multiple ways of kind of engaging with her. Was like you can do the deep dives like in the books and the videos and the remixes, or you can just be like, I'm going to inject this straight into my arm, and I don't even care what's going to happen.
And I think she would co-sign that. Not being like the devotee here, but from what I can tell, from the interviews that I've read, Björk is so emotion forward. So anything that deals with emotion, she's just like, get your fucking money up. And I like that. How about we dive into our first song?
Let's do it.
This song, to me, can be translated into a very small phrase, which is "try me, bitch."
Yeah, so they talked about in the video that this is a song that she wrote because her brother is so lazy, and she's like, if you don't get your shit together, an army of me is gonna come towards you. So I kind of love that she's just like, my brother is such a loser that I need to write a song about how he needs to do better.
I would try to get my shit together if my sister was Bjork and she made this song about me. That's just me, but
Yeah.
also, are we familiar with the concept of like a walk-up song in baseball?
Yes.
Yeah.
This would be an incredible closer walk-up song. You know, as a hitter, it's fine, but like Army of Me as like, I'm about to wreck your shit in the ninth inning. I think that's it.
You know, this, as we were texting back and forth about this album, I mentioned how I wanted to like read everything through the aspect of love, like amorous love, like romantic love. In seeing this video where this guy gets into the depth of, you know, the background of the song being about a brother and sister, I'm just like, okay, well, I thought this was about being tough when you break up, but maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe I'm just a bad reader of Bjork.
I'm going to say just in general about this album, and really like the first two, she's just, you know, she's in her early, like mid-20s at this point. She's doing so many different things. She's got all this pent up, like she's been in bands. I mean, she's talked so much about it. It's like she just was ready to do her own thing. And I think the first album, she had to give a little more production credit to those around her because she's still figuring that out for herself. On Post, she's like, she gets credit for most of the production, some co-credits. And she's talked so much throughout her career about being a woman artist, and like, you know, any man that kind of collaborates with her ends up getting so much credit from the press when at best they're lucky to be in the room with her. And she's very happy to be in the room with people, to be clear. But
and it's hard where one of those people is Neil Hooper, who did have an amorous relationship with Bjork.
And there's like multiple different romantic partnerships that inform this album. Like the person who shot the album cover was someone that she had been dating, and they broke up soon before she started making this album. Tricky, who did a couple songs, like co-wrote a couple of the songs on here. Let's see, specifically, I think she did Enjoy with him, and then...
And also Headphones. Yeah. Headphones was written mostly by Tricky, but performed through Bjork. Mm-hmm. That's not to play into exactly what you just said. Mm-hmm. That is just exactly what I have read about the story of Headphones.
Yeah. But again, I think it's interesting that just like she is someone who, here especially, I think she's just figuring out a lot of different things. And I think this album is so lively for being so many different things across its expanse.
Yeah. And I also kind of feel like, you know, oftentimes the writer of art thinks it's about one thing, but it's really about multiple things. And like, you may not be able to have the presence of mind to know everything that it's about. And also you may not want to say everything that's about at the same time. So I feel like your reading is valid, is what I'm saying.
Well, I feel no sense of denial about my misreading. What I feel is I want to put Bjork into a box that I can understand. Not because I do that to women.
Citation needed.
I just like being able to hold an understanding of someone. I just want to be able to conjure an image of someone and say, oh, Bjork, you mean the person that did X, Y, and C? But as I explored this song and my feelings around it, I got to the point of understanding that I think Björk would be fine with me reading it as being strong during a breakup or being strong during a moment of strife in between two people. And what is wrong is my inability to comprehend a larger scope of what it means to have a relationship in between two people. And check this out. I have an older sister. And there's definitely an army of her.
I mean, I think it's interesting to contrast this song with You've Been Flirting Again, which I think is one of the more understated songs on the album, but honestly one of my favorites because in that one, she's sort of talking through in like a third party perspective of someone, you know, all that she said was true, give her some time, give her some space. That sort of perspective of like not being the one that's in it and being the like wizened, I've been through it and I'm going to help you out with it. And I appreciate that she can inhabit so many different places of intensity in relationship, right? Like sometimes we are the one that's in the really intense place between us and someone else. And sometimes we're like, hey, I see what's going on over there. And let me tell you, you're going to mess it up in this way if you keep doing this thing. Don't ask me how I know or do, but you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. And one of the things that leads to that is the way that this is written. And so much of this album is written. It's written in sentence fragments. There are full sentences, sure, but they're not literary. They're expressive in a way. Like I'm looking at this right here. The sentence, I won't sympathize, is absolutely a sentence. What it isn't, though, is very descriptive. So the way that this is all written and the way that it's performed, and with Björk's like willingness to express emotion, it creates this mist where you can play in, and you can see whatever shadows you see in the clouds are completely there, and whatever you imagine beyond that is well within your right. And I like that of Björk. I like that of Björk versus a artist that's like, my art means one thing and one thing only.
Yeah, I think what I really appreciate about this song is it just like the album just immediately starts with a bang. And I like when I was initially about to listen to this album, I was like, oh, what if I can't connect with it? But this song is like really easy to connect to, like on a musical level. And I feel like it's a song that like I would love to listen to over and over again. And yeah, I'm going to be kind of a dumb bitch on this podcast. So I'm going to say that like the other thing I like about this is it has like a music video where she blows up a museum. I don't know why she's blowing up a museum.
And the gorilla dentist. We can't forget the gorilla dentist that extracts a diamond that keeps getting bigger. She's driving around in the giant teeth truck.
Yeah.
It's a real weird one. I like in the museum too, I didn't really notice this until the recent time I watched it, where there's like a lot of mirrors in the museum. So she's running around corners and she's like running at herself.
Ooh.
She's just, her videos are very fun.
Yeah.
This is a very industrial piece. And I'm not the biggest fan of industrial music. To my detriment. But I really like the music video too, because it is. I saw so many music videos that Björk put out. We're a big pro music video podcast, after all. And the truck that she was driving in it, so cool. Just diesel punk, just being made out in the 90s. I love that.
I can't. Well, part of this is our fourth mic today, Nomi. I took her to the vet yesterday for her teeth cleaning. And then I was watching this music video while I was waiting to get Nomi back. And like, there's the part with the teeth, you know, where they're like clanking up and down and they're metal. And I was like, Björk knows exactly what's going on in my life right now.
We love to be seen by an artist in all the moments that we need it.
Yeah.
If I can share just like one quote from this book, also Army of She. So we got to talk about it with this song. This is by Evelyn McDonald. This is like from I think the early 2000s, it was also like an early ebook, which is just kind of a fun retro thing, but also in print. And so she's talking specifically about what Iceland is. And this makes a lot of, and I think this is important context, which I know we'll talk more about multilingualism later, but she says in this interview, people who go to Iceland think the Icelanders are really stressed out. They're not, but their energy is on 10. And she talks elsewhere in this book about just the extremes of Iceland. And I had not been to Iceland. I got to go there in March with my partner, and the extremes is a very good way to describe what is happening there. I mean, just like you're in a thermal bath, and then you're in the cold. We were at a geyser, and then the geyser mist gets like 10 feet away, and it lands on a tree, and it becomes an icicle. And she just like loves to, I think she's just like so deeply embodying that atmosphere because she grew up in the countryside. She walked like an hour to school and sang to herself the whole way. Like she is just like, I do not know if there's a musician that is like more deeply formed by the earth that they have inhabited their whole life. And I think that alone is like one of the things that's so special about her. And I think especially as a huge fan of hers, getting to see that was unbelievable. We can talk more about what else happened when I was in Iceland, maybe.
Yeah.
In a moment or whenever. You host, guide me.
You know what? Just do it now.
All right. I got to sit in a coffee shop with Bjork for 45 minutes.
What was her order?
She was eating the same yogurt that I had that morning, the like really silky, airy, whatever Icelandic yogurt. I think she's got a nice coffee. She was wearing this like very like skin tight, very like not shimmery, very like metallic dress. She had some nice eye makeup, but she was also just being a person. So I learned that this could happen because I went to the record store that her Sugar Cubes bandmate founded, with an Icelandic name that I'm not going to pronounce. It's like Smell. You will find it on the internet. I went there. I'm, of course, just being like, big fan of hers, blah, blah, blah. I say something that I'd learned before, that Icelandic people have been historically just like very good at giving her space to be a person. And I think that's cool. Again, I think there's so much about being an artist, about being a celebrity, that just seems miserable. And I think she lives in a country that is smaller than, right? Like Iceland is smaller than Chicago. It's
130,000
nothing.
people.
It'd be a small city in most places.
Yeah.
And so I just said, like, I think it's great that like she can be a person, and I hope that even with tourists, like she can do that. And the guy was very kind. He was like, she's going to be here tomorrow. We're having a Sugar Cubes meeting. And I'm just genuinely grateful that he entrusted me with that knowledge. So we got there at noon, right when he said that she was going to be there. We went up the stairs because his record store, then coffee shop upstairs. I desperately wanted to say hi. I've had a couple friends that interviewed her, and I was going to be annoying and be like, oh, my friends that interviewed you, blah, blah, blah. I'm a music writer. I'm so glad I didn't have to do that. There was one other person that tried to say hi, and she was just very politely like, nope. And that was it. And then I just got to like be in her presence for 45 minutes, hear her mostly speaking in Icelandic.
Nice.
And just feel like, okay, I was low-key manifesting this in my mind the whole time, but I was also high-key like giving a lot of psychic energy to it. And I am very grateful that it played out that way.
I love that. I don't know why I imagine you just like, before you leave, you're like, just one last memory of your...
I mean, she did get up to use the bathroom, and then I was like, I needed to pee, so I'm like, I'm going to use the bathroom. So she like came out of the bathroom, and then I went and I was like, yeah, all right, this is nice.
Honestly, like, I love someone being able to fan out. And I didn't know that about the Icelandic people, that they're like, they ward off that kind of unwarranted fan interaction. That's so cool. But I'm also kind of like, the American in me is like, come on.
See, but it's interesting because like I don't know who I was talking to about this, but her end of her last tour was supposed to finish in Reykjavik at the big Harpa concert hall where she's done a lot of stuff. And I guess it just didn't sell enough tickets. Wow. So it's like, okay, Icelanders, yes, we're going to be chill about her as a person when she wants to go to the baths or whatever, but like, go see your national treasure perform this music live. Like, this is so lucky.
It's always your own.
You take these things for granted. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Bjork has like gone through some really traumatic stuff with fans. I mean, there's like the case of like the fan stalking her and like committing suicide and like her having to deal with all that and yeah. So I don't blame her for not wanting to like interact with fans and for Iceland in general being like, you know what, let's give Bjork some space.
Yeah. I will say though, I mean, okay, so I have a friend who was working at like a wine shop, a bottle shop in Brooklyn. Bjork came in, went up to my friend, said, "You find me very handsome, don't you?" So it's like, I'm glad that she can simultaneously be like, give me space if that's what she needs, but also still can be like, yeah, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
So.
Bjork's got riz.
I don't like. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I think the only real like famous person that I want to meet and really like cajole with, maybe that's not the right word, but like, is George Lucas. I would. Oh my! I would love to spend 40 minutes in a coffee shop with George Lucas, even if I'm just like. I'm just a big fan. I've enjoyed his work, and I'm gonna say it again. George Lucas, come on the podcast.
I love this about you because like it's not really something I would expect. Like I know you liked the first season of Andor, but I haven't really heard you talk about Star Wars much beyond that.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep an image. Let's talk about something here. Which this song to me, when I said this song, and I think it's emblematic of the whole album.
Which song are we talking? We're still talking.
Army of Me.
Army of Me. Okay.
It influenced something in me, but in the absence. And I just want to talk about this a little bit before we talk about something else, which is the big chunk of this album, because I was interpreting it through the lens of love, fell flat for me because I'm in this moment in my life where I'm being celibate, right? Where I'm shunning out the entirety of the human race for some internal sake. And really one of those things hit me hard when listening to this, and which is to say, I don't know if I struggle with any former partner of mine. I don't know if I have strife or like pain or associated with anybody that I've been in the past with. And I only now in this year of absence am I understanding that a lot of my former relationships, dalliances, and love affairs have just been shallow, have been incomplete, they have provided me no nourishment, and I've also provided no nourishment at all. And I find like I came to this epiphany on the third listen. In the fourth and the fifth listen, I dreaded listening to this album because I'm just kind of I would like to say the lover in me, but honestly, the human in me is just like, I don't have this other. The search for the other has been completed, and the other has said they're closed for business. And I don't know. So in other words, this song, specifically the song, but also the entire album, affected me deeply.
Yeah. I always appreciate when you share your vulnerabilities on this show, especially because when you're connecting with music, because I feel like you're able to connect to it in a way that I wish I could, where I feel like I've never dreaded listening to an album. So that's really interesting to me. But yeah, I feel like, you've talked about this year of celibacy and what you want in the year afterwards, and that makes me hope that you eventually will feel this this nourishment that you've both received and shared it with others, and then you'll be like, oh wow, I'm connecting with Bjork on a whole different level now.
Yeah, the intensity of like Bjork romance songs, like on this album, of course, it's oh so quiet. And anyways, yeah, thank you for sharing that. Can I share just one other sort of stray quote that what you said made me think of?
Yeah.
So this is from so I'm working at Northwestern on this book, and one of my advisors is Sarah Schulman, who's just like a legendary writer, organizer. I've looked up to her as a writer and thinker for a long time now. It's very wild to get to work with her. And she's got this book, People in Trouble, which, just quick sidebar, the plot of Rent basically ripped it off. And there's a whole story there. Anyways, so she's got this very specific quote in there where she's saying something to the effect of like, being angry at someone is actually an act of generosity because it means you have to consider them. Being passive towards someone or just kind of tolerating things, that's actually really patronizing. And it's such an interesting thing, and it definitely feels very different in this moment where obviously so many people go online and just get angry at people for no reason. I think she's obviously referring to a time where we're like, if I'm angry at someone, it means because I'm in a relationship to them. And I like that. Like I have to, if I'm going to direct some energy at someone in that way, it needs to be pointed. It needs to mean something. And again, there's ways of doing that are hurtful and just like not okay. I have a friend who said something that like honesty without compassion is cruelty. But compassion without honesty is manipulation, as in you're just like talking around someone, you're trying to like soothe their ego, but you're not actually being like, you got to work on some stuff. And so I think there's something in this song where she's just like, hey man, I still think there is probably love underneath there, I would choose to believe. But in this song, she's like, hey, get your shit together. I can't really keep dealing with this. And I think there's something really generous about that. And maybe sometimes you just need to like channel that energy for a little bit in your life to be like, look, this just isn't working right now. We can work on some things. And let's hopefully not stay here forever where I have to keep being angry at you. But I think anger can be very clarifying in that way is basically what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah. No, we're pro anger here. And I appreciate that. It's just something I talk about casually on the show. Like I don't get super in depth into it, but just this album really just made it clear to me. To follow what you're saying is that I don't have anyone to be angry to. I don't have anyone to be angry at me. Not in the like way that two people in a committed relationship are, but I don't know. It's just a lot, and I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that in one of the coming songs that we're gonna cover, Hyperballed. But before we do that, let's take a Hispanic interlude.
Ooh.
Annie, you're a Rosalia head.
I don't know if maybe not head, but I think just like again, she just was here in Chicago on Saturday. It was one of those things where I just was kind of paying attention. First, this is just like a general plug for if you're a music fan in the world, and those big names. You're like, okay, I want to go to this thing. What is going on with the music economy? Variable pricing on tickets for Ticketmaster things, just awful, awful, awful. That said, if you can be patient and not buy things immediately, which sometimes you want to just go for it. So many shows these days, the scalpers are just buying out row after row after row of tickets. And so Rosalia tickets, I got mine for $60. I think face value, nothing was under $100. And probably more than that. There were tickets like as the show is starting for $30-something. And so this is me just telling all the music nerds of whoever's listening to keep an eye on whatever show, usually bigger venues and also multiple nights will be very helpful. I know, for example, like Phoebe Bridgers' Alex G in September. I'm not the biggest Phoebe fan, but I'm a huge Alex G fan. Sold out 2 nights. I guarantee a huge percentage of those tickets are bought by scalpers, and I will be buying one the day of the show in September.
I did buy tickets to that show, and part of me thinks maybe I should have waited, but I feel like there's this pressure of like, oh, it's going on sale. You got to get tickets
Sometimes
now.
you get excited. It's okay.
Yeah.
And if you're like, I got to be there, then, fair enough. But anyway, so to your point, Rosalia, I think I was like, this is going to be a show that I do not want to miss. I had seen some photos of a way that she did an install for a show earlier, or like last year when Lux came out. It was not quite, this was like site specific in Italy, and it was like all these drapes, and it was like a one-time show. So it was not quite on that level, but it was a 5-act thing. The staging was just immaculate. This song, Bergheim, like she started act 2 with this. The first act was like all of these very like operatic songs. the Bjork show is easily number one. Probably David Byrne, number two. Sufjan Stevens, Brian Wilson, Pitchfork 2016, number three. Comfortably, I would say Rosalia is in like a top 5 situation for me of shows.
Yo, and you're not a Rosalia head.
No, now I am. Now, I mean, like, it's one of those things where, again, I was like, going into it, I was like, I know I've enjoyed some of these songs. And then I finally like was thoroughly listening. And I was like, oh, Lux is just astounding. Motomami I need to listen to that more thoroughly, but like all the stuff that she played from that was great. And I need to listen to her earlier stuff too, but like she's just got range, and she also like played with a lot of heart, which I think is part of where the Bjork, like the as you were saying, sort of like the Bjork cosign comes through. At one point she was talking about how grateful she was to be there and how her career has gone by. The last show she played was 4 years ago, and it was at the Aragon. Like, that's a huge jump.
Whoa.
And it, they were like zoomed in on her face on the big screens, and she had so many tears in her eyes, and it was just genuinely like beautiful to witness. And she just was really present with the crowd. She was like, there's this woman in the front row that had crazy vocal projection, and she's like, everyone, quiet, so she can just do this. And people were not listening and getting the memo. But she was like chatting with people. She's just very alive in the show, and that was cool to see.
I love the synchronicity of like, you just happen to watch Rosalia. I just kind of threw it in the chat because I'm like, I listened to Lux when it came out last year, and I'm not gonna reheat any nachos here, but like there's a lot of talk that went around that, and not being the biggest Bjork fan, but like knowing about her, I saw her piece, and this song continues. Like, this song is honestly a lot similar to what Bjork sings about. Like, there's different languages here. There's at least 3 different languages. There is German, there is Spanish, and then there is English, of course. We can't forget about anglais. And then but this song is about what else? About love and its affects. And I wanted to bring it here because I do see how Bjork is co-signing Rosalia, and Rosalia is interested in putting, I think, a glimpse of what the future might be for music. A much more culturally promiscuous tone to music, or incredibly hyper-focused. There's a lot of albums we covered in this podcast, one of them being Bad Bunny, and Rosalia and Bad Bunny, they made some bangers together. And I just want to talk about language, and I want to talk about Bjork's language, the bilingual nature of post. And just to get the conversation going, I just want to know, do you see Bjork as a bilingual singer?
Yeah, I mean, through the very definition of she uses multiple languages.
But that's that's textbook, sure. But does she inhabit the concept, the metaphysical concept of the grand spirit of the bilingual artist?
I think yes, because let's just say this. I don't think I've ever heard a native English speaker sing in the way that she does, speak in the way that she does. As someone who is only very, very, very little speaking another language, French, and I'm sad about it, there's just so much about what you start with and then what you learn after, and how the original one kind of like informs the next thing that you learn. And there's just like something so specific about the Icelandic quality of, and I think especially like getting to be in the coffee shop and hear her speak in Icelandic just like continuously, it's a very different cadence. The language is very unique. It's like I'm going to do a bad job of remembering like what the tour guide on one of the things we did like talked about, but it's like one of the weirder languages in the world. And so even if it's a lot of her lyrics are in English, I think they're so deeply embedded in her coming from that Icelandic perspective. Her accent and the way that she approaches her singing like comes from that place, I think, very deeply. And then I think, there are some lyrics, and there are some lyrics on this album. I think she returns to Icelandic on her most recent album, 2022 or 23's Fossora. it might not be there as much as she maybe would want to. I'd be curious about that. She did make a jazz album right before debut came out, Gling Glow, that's all in Icelandic, and it's like all jazz covers.
Wonderful album.
Yeah. So I think she's still, I think she is so indebted to Icelandic culture, history, embodying that as a, again, very small place and like being a very big presence within it, if that makes sense.
Okay, then let me hit you with this. Do you see ABBA as a bilingual?
Are they singing in Swedish? Ever? Are they? I don't know. It's a genuine question.
They, in fact, do sing some in Swedish. But, like, I can tell you that their big hits are in English.
Yeah, and you were talking about Eurovision. They were a Eurovision band, if I remember correctly.
They were the first Eurovision act that instead of singing in their native tongue, chose to sing in English for market ability. Do you see ABBA as a capital B bilingual artist?
Definitely, like, not to the extent that Bjork is, because I feel like ABBA songs, I mean, obviously there's like Mamma Mia, that doesn't, you know.
You're saying they're trilingual italiano, paisan.
No, I'm saying like the movie itself, like, you know, you don't learn a lot about different languages and cultures and that. You learn about Meryl Streep. And yeah, I mean, ABBA has like a lot of really fun songs, but yeah, I definitely think Bjork exudes multiple cultures in a way that ABBA doesn't.
Like, I don't think it's in question that like Bjork loves her language and her people. I just find it interesting that there is this narrative around Bjork being this accidental pop star. The video, one of the videos that we saw, the whole theme of it was, oh, wasn't it strange that Bjork became famous? And I don't like that. I don't like that for a handful of reasons. But the one I want to focus in on is the concept of language. Like, Bjork is choosing to sing in English. Her first song, according to this video, was a Icelandic song that she did at 11. And of course, do we know that off the top of our heads? No. I watched the video maybe like 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago, whatever. And I just think that there's something to be said about how when an artist chooses to sing in English, what they're doing is they're choosing to court the larger market forces of the Western world. And I immediately see that as a decision that eliminates this concept of saying, oh, this accidental pop star. No. Bjork is being smart. She's being deliberate about what she does and why she does it. Because she was also very well connected with British acts at the time. One of them being House's very own theme song creator, Massive Attack. And I don't like this narrative about Bjork being this accident.
If I can jump in with a few thoughts. So it is interesting, specifically the Sugar Cubes and their song Birthday. That basically there was like I'm forgetting the name of the journalist, but like one of the main music publications, I think Melody Maker in the UK, just kind of very randomly chose that as like the song of the week. And that's the kind of, I mean, that's a time where music journalism is still a little bit more widespread. It's still in print. The internet's not really there yet. And like that is genuinely credited for like them getting any amount of audience, because otherwise they were still just a very small band. So I think that moment is interesting in terms of like them, the Sugar Cubes, being able to have a moment and getting some touring and getting to like go around the world. I think you're right though that like Bjork, there's just too much talent baseline. Like she just is too interesting and too much of a creative spirit to be pigeonholed into this like strange thing. Like there's just so much that she's doing so well. And again, because there's so many singles from this album, because they are doing a lot of different things, right? Like the one that got biggest is It's Oh So Quiet, because that song is just so intense and it's the big band thing, and it's just like very chaotic, and it's just so full of character that it's like hard to imagine not hearing that and being like very moved by it. But I guess another thing to think about, and we're still thinking about Rosalia, what is the difference between someone like Bjork, who is representing, again, let's say a whole nation, but it's a very small nation, versus a Rosalia, who is from Spain, singing in a lot of different styles of Spanish language music, but also a lot of those styles are from colonies, former colonies of Spain. And so then there's like a different character to that, perhaps. And I haven't like read deeply into Rosalia's relationship to these different genres. You know, that I think it's one of those things where colonization just is a little different there. But the last thing I guess I can say about Bjork and her relationship to Icelandic culture is like she explicitly was like, I needed to leave Iceland to make debut in post. Like she had to take a step away and do some of the production elsewhere to get into the music that was able to shape her into that direction. All the electronic music from England that we're talking about. Like she just knew that she was going to get stuck in that sort of like Icelandic sameness culture. And still she carried that with her, and that very much informed her, and she goes back home and she's very connected to that place, but had to have those steps away to be able to like kind of sharpen that distance, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's just, one of the things, you can't take the name Bjork without Bjork also being a punchline. Like,
There's a punchline to a community episode.
Exactly. Like, I'm thinking about the exact same thing. And I've heard it in elsewhere as well. And it's not like if I'm her biggest defender here, but one of the things that I dislike is this very simple narrative that like Bjork is a star that fell into this earth and she's one of a kind and so on and so on. She has a lot of talent. There's a lot of talented artists in this world. There are 8 billion of the motherfuckers in this planet. And so, like, of course, some of them are talented like Bjork, but there's also market forces that are at play. And I think of Rosalia as part of that as well. I just think Rosalia's like making this music in these different languages. I find it interesting. And I find it as a glimpse at the real intelligence that is within Rosalia and Bjork and all these other artists that are like doing different languages in their music, even if it's just an artist that features in their music.
There's a quote in I Love Boosters that's something like someone saying that like, oh, you know, everyone like wants it. Well, the end of the quote is like, it's everyone wants to be artists. It's not just everyone wants to create art. So I feel like that kind of goes to like what you're saying of that there are these market forces that are stopping more Bjorks from coming across our desks. That like capitalism and like colonialism and all these things makes it harder for a lot of artists to reach us. There might be someone who isn't like putting any English in, and we'll just never hear of them because of that.
And this is when I have to say, with the United States on the way out, the empire on the way out, like, I think more music like Bjork and like Rosalia's are going to become popular, multicultural, beyond any one border or language. And I am excited for that, especially now that, you know, the dollar ain't what it used to be.
If I can give one other sort of, if we're thinking of like lineages, and I obviously Rosalia and Bjork, because I've collaborated and there's a lot of this sort of like big grand vision of their work, there's a lot of similarities there. The other person that I've been thinking about in the last few days is Kate Bush, right? Similar sort of like one of one female singer, but also, you know, producer, just like doing the whole thing. You know, she's credited with inventing the like wireless microphone when she did her Hounds of Love tour, her only real tour. Like she's just like someone that like is just so fundamental. And it's one of those things where it's like there might not be a Bjork without a Kate Bush in some ways. Yeah, obviously like Bjork would still be making her music, but like how we get kind of used to these ideas of like, oh, there can be a woman with a really interesting voice, perspective, songwriting talent, and like she can get big. Now, I don't think every artist needs to get big to be important to people, to build an audience, and like that doesn't need to be the goal for everybody. Like I don't think every artist, I don't think I would not want to be Bjork. Like it's so cool that she is there, and I'm grateful that we can talk about her. And I'll share a quote in a little bit about just her being a human too, and like really struggling with things. But also to what you're saying about like multilingualism, right? Kate Bush is very British, and and that's great, and that's totally fine. Is she British? Wait, I'm just saying this, and I'm like, I swear she's British. I'm not making this up. She's got that whimsy, that British.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't know why I doubted myself there.
No, I mean, she's British now. She's got that tea and that crumpet.
English singer.
That's what I thought. So anyways, an interesting touch point I was just thinking about where it's like, oh yeah, we're lucky for these really path-breaking women doing their weird thing. And we're lucky that whatever terrible machinations of record companies and taste making, these systems are so stupid. It's like really frustrating, and it's so random, right? That like certain things just pop off because one person heard it and is like, yeah, I should put this on air. And then, the audience shows up because they're like, wow, something new has happened and I must respond to it. And I think that's what's beautiful is like Post is an album that people responded to because there's so much to respond to. And then we get to have a much longer Bjork career where she gets to do a lot of different things. But to your point of like her being a joke, I mean, I think I might be wrong. That has to die off at least a little bit after when we get in the 21st century. She just like became a mid-career artist. She's not just this weird kooky novelty. And there, she has these incredible moments pretty early on where she is just a weirdo. And like, again, I think people don't know what to do with that. Like if you haven't seen, there's an incredible video of her talking about taking apart her television and looking inside. She's like saying like, don't trust poets. It's very funny. And so she's like, she is just being herself. She's being very weird. And I understand what you're saying, that it's like, it sucks that just means that she becomes a punchline. I'm sure that community joke is really stale because at that point you're like, wow, so you're just like dismissing someone who's clearly proven that she's not just this one-hit wonder, just this little joke. And so anyone who's still making jokes at Bjork's expense, I think you're a little 25, 30, 40 years behind the time. I'll say
Dan
that.
Harmon, you're on notice. So this is from a 2010 episode of Community, and it's just a sight gag of like, it's the Christmas episode where it's all stop motion, and it's just like there's a crank, and like the furthest point on the crank is Bjork. So I feel like it's not necessarily like trying to be like, oh, Bjork is crazy. It's more like Bjork is this height. Like
what else is on the?
Let me look that up because I don't have it memorized.
Because I mean, Bjork, as she was saying, Iceland's energy is on 10, so she is like on 1. So maybe that is actually just being accurate. So. If you're like being mean about Bjork in 2020,
I just want to see the death of English hegemony. Honestly,
I respect that. Yes.
Like, como bilingüe te puedo decir que yo soy harto de pensar en inglés, hablar en inglés, manejar el inglés en las empresas. Estoy harto.
Okay, unfortunately, I don't think this is going to be support Community's case, but it goes from aloof, detached, distant, Bjork.
I think that's okay.
Okay.
And there's dozens and dozens of that kind of low hanging like punchlines. But I just want to see. I'm excited. We are living in a time in the American state that's terrifying, absolutely terrifying. But I just wanna get a glimpse of what can be, and I so many of the music that I listen to has multiple languages in it, and I'm excited for more of that to be the norm, and for more of it to land in my headphones. And so like I'm just, I guess one of the things that I do want to express is the fear that I have about this time we live in. But much like there is fear, there's always hope.
Can I throw in just one more quick book recommendation? This is on the sort of U.S. empire of it all. This is a book written by my undergrad history advisor at Northwestern, Daniel Immervar. It's called How to Hide an Empire. And basically it's just about how the U.S. is very much an empire in the 20th century and into the 21st century, but not in the way that most empires were historically. Obviously, our settler colonialism is one facet. This is more like global. It talks about the pointillist map, so like all of our army bases, navy bases, and like that's the real map of the U.S. Is like we've got this pinprick here and here and here. But there's specifically a chapter about the English language and sort of how getting the whole world to speak English is a colonial project. But it's a very like insidious one, and not one that requires us to like be occupying every single piece of land for people to need to speak English to access certain things. So anyways, just a very good book. I'm biased, but it's great.
It's a project that's been happening for hundreds of years because the American
British
state is the successor of the British.
And then there's also a great chapter about the Beatles and the exchange of submarines between the U.S. and Liverpool, and like carrying back and forth like music from the U.S. to specifically Liverpool, where the Beatles were stationed. Anyways, just a very good album, a very good book.
I'm not afraid of that future, of a multilingual future, because I'm already that. I'm already also a multi-geographic person. Like I am a dual citizen, right? I want this truth to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And I encourage, well, not just the both of you, but also every single person listening to imagine the benefit of having a multicultural world where we have more Rosalias, where we have more Bjorks, where we have the capitalist forces boot off of our neck to be able to have them maybe have a good joking community every once in a while too. Like we can imagine great things. Just to get back in the mood, listening to Hyperballed.
Yeah, I feel like this is when I want to bring in the queerness part into it, where like we chose this as part of our Queerdos miniseries, even though until 2026 there wasn't really any black and white evidence of Bjork being explicitly queer. Of course, you know, there's that interview where she talks about like she's open to both men and women. But yeah, I mean, I kind of like this idea that you brought into it of these ideas about love, because this one, it feels like it fits a little bit more than the first song on the album. And yeah, so I appreciate Bjork's vulnerability, and I feel like this is part of why queer people gravitate towards her, even before she was explicitly queer. Not just because like she's quote unquote strange, but because she really cuts to the heart, and as queer people, that's what we do too.
Can I go in on this?
Yeah.
I've got so many thoughts about Hyperballed. So I think I just have been listening to this album a lot. I think of in my household of Bjork as like a Scorpio icon, as a fellow Scorpio. And I've been thinking a lot about the sort of intensity that is being a Scorpio and wanting to be in a relationship and feeling sometimes so intense that you don't know what to do with it. And I think this is like the ultimate song for that in a lot of ways in her discography, because she's basically saying like, there are all these things in me that are like scary as hell that I have to like go by myself and make sense of and like cast into the unknown, including the theoretical me throwing myself off of this cliff just so I can come back inside and like try to be normal in a normal human relationship with another person. Like that's so scary. That is so vulnerable. I think the song, there is like some humor in the song. I guess I'm just thinking about, I'm trying to remember the comedian, Chris Fleming. Is that a person who's like pretty, just had an HBO special?
Dresses like a lesbian.
Yeah.
Was in a Muna music video recently.
There you go. Yes.
Lesbians.
There's a video where Chris Fleming is talking about like being Bjork's landlord living downstairs, and Bjork's just like throwing things off of the building. Like, Bjork, you gotta stop, and then she's still singing. Anyways, so like this song is simultaneously like so strange, and again, just like that really, the weird hypothetical of it is very striking. My other sort of favorite moment with this song is, if folks don't know, the drag queen Grelly Duvall, aka Alex Grelly, Chicago icon. I love them to death. They have a show where, I mean, a lot of their stuff, they're like thinking about the actress Shelley Duvall. And so this show is like doing different Shelley Duvall movie experiences. And specifically The Shining and Shelley Duvall's very tortured wife character, whose name I'm forgetting in this moment, like being stuck on that mountain with crazy Jack Nicholson. And the song was Hyperballed. And I was just like, this is the perfect crossover of these things. It was just one of those moments where I'm like, this is why we get to remix culture, because just this synchronicity of these two things is just too good, and Grelly nailed it, and it was so perfect, and I love it to death.
It's like when pieces of media like connect so well that it like tickles your amygdala. I've had the exact same feeling. One of them being the community table read during COVID lockdown with
Walton Goggins. His character, I remember from that episode.
Yeah, and my boy Pedro Pascal.
Right, yeah, he was the one. Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is built just for me.
I saw this documentary, Tally Brown, New York, the other night, and there's a moment where Divine is doing drag and comes out to Kraftwerk's, I think, Radioactivity. I was just like, wow. I feel I got to be alive long enough to see this, so that's great.
Okay, well, it's kind of like when I was watching Rick and Morty.
This is the most Sam Harmon episode we've had.
And then a tennis song came on where it was a Kishi Bashi song. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know what simpatico like figures are out in the universe with me right now, but they exist.
We just love a crossover moment in our lives and in our media. Yeah. Marcy, any crossover episodes or moments for you that you're just like, that really did it for me?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I feel like it'll come to me. But while I think of that, I kind of want to ask you two about the queerness of Bjork. Now, we haven't mentioned the recent potential girlfriend of Bjork, but outside of that, do you see Bjork's music as queer?
I would say, yeah. I mean, I think it makes sense that she has a very gay audience. I think it's one of those things where, I don't know. I think we can be too weird about people's personal lives, and I don't need to know for sure, whatever, that Bjork has had a lesbian lover to feel a lot of beautiful femme lesbian energy from her music. So, but also I do think it's like fair that like a lot of her, again, like especially on Posts, like all these songs that are driven by these very intense romances with these different men that are in her life in that moment, that are like shooting the music videos and album cover and recording the tracks with her, like that's okay too. And it doesn't need to be exclusively that to still find all this beautiful queer meaning in it. That's, again, like what we're talking about, like art can be many different things for all of us. She was creating it from these specific relationships in that moment with men. Doesn't matter. Who cares? Like, there's still a lot of gay icon in her. And again, she's also just like someone who collaborates. She's collaborated with Anoni, with Arca. Like, she just clearly loves queer people.
I'm going to go ahead and say, if queerness is what isn't allowed, what is on the outside, what is punished, fuck yeah, Bjork is queer. And her music is queer. I don't have perfect recall here, but I read Gender Troubles earlier this year by Judith Butler, and in it, like I was trying to like read it to just get a better and better idea of what it means for me to be queer, and what it means for me to be a man who is queer. And like my biggest takeaway is that like there is an enforcement mechanism of what it is allowed in this world. And that's done by capital, of course, for its capitalistic ends. And Bjork, I spent a lot of time saying she's not a fluke. But honestly, in this case, in queering Bjork, I would say she is a fluke of purely existing in a world that wants to punish an artist like Bjork, but Bjork having so much talent, and being born in the right time and having access to the tools that are necessary to make this music, that it makes an anthem. It makes a real joyous occasion for a little homosexual like me.
Yeah, I love that we as gay people, and I like what you said, Annie, about like not needing to know whether or not she's had a lesbian lover. Because I think the other thing is like you can have had a lesbian lover and still not be gay. I mean, look at how many people experiment in college. So yeah, I don't think we really need to like zero in on, okay, you have to have had sex with this many people who are gay for this long in order to be queer. We can just appreciate what Bjork has already given us.
She's just like energetically. I mean, she's just like, she's hanging out with the mushroom. She's hanging out in the moss. Like she's just her first lover feels like the earth itself, right? And like I think that alone is very gay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. And again, I think we keep kind of going around this question of like, so many people deify Bjork. I'm maybe a little guilty of that. I wanted to bring in maybe in this moment just this really beautiful quote from her. Again, this is from this interview from Volna Kerna. I'm mispronouncing that one. This is her album where she was getting divorced from her former partner, Matthew Barney. And so she's talking about how it sounds like she could be very wise in all these beautiful things that she's saying. And she says, when I say that, it might come across that I'm incredibly wise, but it's the other way around. I'm fucked, and I'm trying to talk myself into it, like, go girl, you can do it. It's me advising myself. It's not me knowing it all, not at all. It's just a certain route you just have to go. I went through it. And, you know, I mean, I think, again, there's in this album in post, she's had a lot of breakups, and it's like a very, like, there's a tumultuousness around this period in her life, but she's also still in her 20s. And so I think you can kind of get that, like, 20-something trying on a lot of different life costumes, as it were. In 2015, she's been with this person for a long time. She talks on that album about being so devastated that this life that they've made together is falling apart. And like, so when she says something like, no, I'm just telling myself that it's going to be okay. Again, I think there's something like Hyperballed where she's just like, okay, like it's kind of scary that I have to go out and like contemplate all these big scary things, but like that's what I need to do to be able to be okay. And so like I guess I just like I come back to this quote from this interview from a decade ago because I'm like, okay, in my crazy life where a lot of moments I do not understand what's happening to me or around me and it's very confusing, if even Bjork is confused and I can do all the putting her on a pedestal I want to and all of her brilliance, no, she's just a person that's figuring it out and then making something from that confusion and from that learning process that then allows a lot of other people, ourselves included, to then like have a better perspective on the world. So that's what art is all about, baby. But some people do it better than others, and she's one of them.
Yeah, I really appreciate the way that Bjork takes a lot of those thoughts, and a lot of people would just like push them down and be like, no, I don't have to think about this. But she does think about it, and she puts it into her art, and she shares it with all of us.
The real question is Bjork mother?
Ooh.
I have this incredible, this was just like from a New York Times style magazine that she was on the cover of that I got at a garage sale. And it's just like her in this very like plasticky, but also looks like a nun's sort of outfit. And she's just like holding her arms up really high. And she's like got her mouth open. She's probably like singing or something. And it's definitely like, I'm like, it's on my shrine. I'll say that much. So
I love that. You are such a fan.
I am very devoted to this.
I love that.
Yeah. No, it's one of those things where I was talking with my friend earlier and we're talking about sort of like, do you have any like guides, like spiritual guides? And yes, it's silly. She's a living person that I don't think I'll ever meet other than being next to her in a coffee shop. But it's like, no, her energy, the things that I can like glean from her art, from the way that I've seen her move through the world, I kind of check myself against that. That's why I like bring this quote up of her being like, sometimes I don't know what's going on. She's got this other quote that I think is, again, very relevant to what's happening on Post, where she says, somewhere along the line, I made a wish unconsciously to take as fully part of things as I could. And that means you've got to be ready to end periods and start new ones and change. And of course, it's painful. But when you plant a wish like that you want to experience and feel maximum, you've got to realize what comes with it. And again, like for her to make this album with a lot of people that she's like actively getting into relationships with or getting out of relationships with, like the song "I Miss You" is about one of I think that one's about Nellie Hooper, who she was not yet dating, but then would later be dating. It's just like there's so much happening around her with all these people that like, and then there was like a fight between a couple of the lovers that happened in a club. I can't remember which ones, but like again, very tumultuous. But she's like, no, I got to just keep changing.
That's the Icelandic way, right? Up to 10.
Up to 10, all the extremes.
I don't know. I don't know if I really like this song.
Ooh, okay, well, it's been nice being here, y'all. I'm going to go home now. Nice try.
Look, I could intellectualize a moth landing on my shoulder and writing 900 pages worth of journals, right? Okay, maybe like 9 pages.
For the listeners at home, she did this with the song Isabel. That's just some backdrop, but continue.
But this song, it's like I said, in the absence, I understand it. In the absence, I understand that you have to deal with like deep emotions, so deep that you have to pick up a car part and throw it off of a mountain. And it's just like when the fourth and fifth time I listened to this album, I was just like, I don't want to listen to this. I don't want to listen to it, not because it's bad, but because it's telling me something about me that I don't really want to confront, but also like I don't really want to like ignore. So like it produces this contradiction within me that causes me to just want to literally put on Mexican perreo music. I listen to like party music around. I stopped listening to the album on the fifth time around, what was it, Enjoy? Just to listen to like party music because I was just like, I need something vapid. I need something that's not talking to me outside of just enjoying the dance floor and a little drink.
I hate to say it, but because you've now let Bjork in this much, I think you're like probably going to get some sort of like refracted dream visit where she's going to tell you to do some hard things. So you just got to be ready for this. I'm so sorry. From direct experience of having her be on stage and be like, you got to change some things in your life, which happened when I saw her in 2022. Like, she's just got that sort of clarion voice. Like, sometimes life is hard to make these changes. Just warning you, I'm not trying to be like...
You know how scary it is to me?
It is scary. It is, yeah.
That a white woman's gonna appear to me in my sleep. Crosses. I'm gonna put crosses, garlic, silver, whatever.
I think she'll come kindly, but I don't know. I guess one more thing on the dreaming point, the music video for this, I think, because if you've not seen it, basically there's a lot of her like lying down and then there's like camera panning over her face, but then it kind of projects into this like very like, there's a lot of like pixelation and her kind of running around these virtual environments. To me, it's very much just like a sort of dream projection type of thing. And I think for me as someone, again, big Scorpio, I dream like so much. I have like 5, 6, 8, 10 full episodes every night. And I'm like, I think my unconscious has so much stuff to work out. And I genuinely feel really grateful because I most mornings wake up feeling, if not refreshed, then at least sort of like cleared out. Because I think in the deep levels, I'm like, there's too many things to do in one lifetime. And I think she's one of those people where it's just like, there's a lot going on in there.
You see, but I'm not a Scorpio like you, Bjork.
I lean into this stuff. I understand it's scary and not most people don't want to do this.
Or Drake. I'm an Aquarius.
Yeah,
I'm an Aquarius moon.
I'm an Aquarius as well.
And so like to me, I am trying to go with the flow here.
See, it's funny because I thought my understanding of, at least in the moon phase, that you're a huge brooder. But that's on the emotional side. So I don't know how that relates to the sun side.
Yeah, I'm a big brooder. I'm brooding all the time. Master Wayne.
I'm also not very good at astrology. I'm trying to learn.
One of the things that I just... Look, it's like... I don't dream. I don't have dreams. This is the most fucked up thing about me, right? And this is the least human thing about this most vampiric thing about me. If I was gonna get put on trial in front of a troika and then be sentenced to death, it's because I don't dream. And I just... it's in the absence. Once a time again, like you describing your experience to me, I can only understand it in the absence. And I don't know shit about what it means to be an Aquarius, right? But I do know what it means to be a Mexican. And to me, a Mexican is someone who wants to grab all of experience and chug it down. And so, like, hearing you speak, or literally every time Marcy speaks about her experience, or anybody else speaks about their experience, I like a freak want to just pick it up like I'm a cyberpunk character and then just put it into a little chip into my brain and to experience it. And so, like, I understand that there's a lot here, but I can only do it in the absence, and it's painful. It's honestly difficult.
So Bjork won't be visiting you in your dreams because you can't have dreams.
Yeah. It stabbed me while you're at it.
All I'll say is if you want some other albums of hers eventually down the line to do some more of that, like, oh, I got to face some stuff that's out there for you. And also, if you just want to walk away from her after this listening experience, I also respect it.
I'm going to do that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, see, I'm kind of having the opposite perspective of like, no, I need to listen to more Bjork. And if Bjork wants to visit me in her dreams, she can do that. Because I do have dreams. I don't know if I have 8 per night, but I do have a good amount per night. A lot of them are recurring. I won't get too into it because people talking about their dreams can get boring. But yeah, I'd be ready for Bjork to visit me and tell me like some new directions I need to take in my life.
Why are you vigorously moving up and down your eyebrows when you say that?
I don't know. I can't see my eyebrows, so
We're just excited.
I guess so. I'm excited for Bjork to. Yeah, I'm not trying to be sexual about it. If that's what you're implying. Yeah.
We'll let your unconscious decide that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we can talk about Bjork forever. And honestly, Bjork is going to be around forever. So, of course. So, one of the things that will be around forever as well is hope. And what we are hopeful for, what we have good emotions towards. And Annie and Marcy, I want to ask y'all a very prudent question. Marcy, what is bringing you happiness? What is bringing you hope?
Yeah, I think one of the things that is bringing me hope is Bjork, just knowing that there's so much more of her music out there that I haven't listened to, and knowing that I'll be able to meet her in a way that I think I'll be able to absorb it more than I did when I was younger. I'm excited to continue on because I think that this conversation and the videos that you shared, Annie, and just setting aside a time for Bjork, I think it's made it so that I'm finally ready to dive deeper. So that's what's giving me hope right now.
I like that. Yeah, it's a great question. I think that I got to, as part of this MFA program that I'm doing right now, my second year is sort of like the teaching year. So I was teaching creative nonfiction intro class to 3 sets of students over the course of this last school year. And my mom is a first grade teacher. It's just like very rooted in me, this sort of what teaching can do. And I think I learned a lot, and it definitely was not perfect, and I'm excited to get better. But even just this year of teaching at where I went to my undergrad, there was something really healing about that. And there was also just something really exciting about seeing where people a decade plus younger than me are. Also definitely feeling like, okay, I'm not young. I'm not old, but I'm definitely not young in that way anymore. One of them brought in a Mitski record, Bury Me at Makeout Creek, as like a show and tell object on vinyl. I was like, you were 7 years old when this came out. So, oof. But anyways, so it just like, it was really exciting for me to sort of see my students with so much curiosity, excitement, willingness to go along with my crazy ideas of like, can we try something together that I don't know if it's going to work? And then they just were game for it. And we're game for like, learning more about themselves through writing, which is a very hard and scary thing to do. I dropped that class when I was an undergrad. It was the only class I ever dropped. And it's cool to tell them, like, you're braver than me just by staying in this class. And I think they appreciated that. So that's giving me hope. This is a very other silly example, but I'm on a lesbian softball team, and
Nice.
we're just like, this is my second year. We were definitely worse on the field last year. Across the board, we're playing better this year. After our first 2 games, I said, we're not the 2025 White Sox, we're the 2026 White Sox. We're still not the best team in the world by any means, but we're playing well. And I think there's just something really special, because I'm not doing a ton of organizing right now, and I need to get back to that at some point. But there's something really meaningful about being a part of a collective effort and seeing the immediate results of like, not just like playing better and like physically doing a better effort, but also still being a part of like, we're here to have fun. We're here to lift each other up. We're here to help each other learn to get better, because we have new people, and it's fun to be like, oh, let's learn this very basic baseball rule that's like also insane, and you're going to have to learn it by experience the first time. A fly out and getting tagged off for baseball heads, softball heads out there. And then they learned it. And then it was nice to be able to be like, that's so okay. This literally doesn't matter, but also now you'll be more ready for next time. So it's just like fun to be a part of a collective thing, and to also feel myself getting better at it and being like, this is just satisfying, very physical, very just being in my body right now is giving me a lot of hope, because it's hard to be anywhere else.
Can you take Marcy out to play sometime? She's like, oh, I'm a jock. Oh,
what?
I love sports.
Okay,
Oh.
just because I'm getting more into the WNBA doesn't mean I'm a jock. I am not good at sports. I would be terrible at this.
I will say it's too late to join our league for this year, but there is like a bi-weekly major les ball
Okay.
that's in Winnemac Park usually. So
Sounds like my co-host.
have you played softball, baseball before?
I played t-ball when I was younger.
There you go.
Yeah.
I played. I tapped out after 7 years of youth baseball, so you can come back around anytime.
Every once in a while, there's like, I want to make a joke that like angles towards transness, and hearing the word T-ball.
Yeah, it's there.
What's bringing me hope? I can't really tell you, listener, because it has to do with my personal life, but it's out there. I don't mean to vague post on my own podcast, but like, what's bringing me hope is something it's like,
We can bleep it out.
it's like I'm serving you Earl Grey without the cup. You know, I want to tell you so bad, and I don't normally do this, but I am just gonna ask that you send some positive vibration towards me. Send your Scorpio or Aquarius vibrations towards me, because I am having a good time, and I can't share that with you, but I can share in the joy and the happiness. So with that, listener, you can find us everywhere at
Dove Weather.
including
YouTube,
and
Instagram,
and we can't forget
every single podcast platform under the sun. And of course Bluesky too.
if you're ready to be in the most boring social media ever, Bluesky. If you're ready to be in Friendster in 2026. Thank you so much for listening.
And thank you, Annie, for being such an amazing guest.
Where can the good people of Doveweather find you?
Ooh, great question. I have a website, annie-howard.com, that I need to update, but a lot of my writing is on there. I have zines of my writing that are available in, in Chicago, they're in Quimby's, Pilsen Community Books, friend of the show, the Buddy store in the Cultural Center downtown. I'm on Instagram, T_Annie_Howard, but like I'm not really on Instagram, but like find me there, it's fine. I will plug that there is a platform that I use called Arena, ARE.NA, that is lovely. If you're trying to get off of other social media, but you still want a little bit of it, there's no advertising. Just it's like a lot of very smart and interesting people being very like nerding out about their thing on the internet, like creating libraries of things. I've learned a lot about tarot on there. One time I was on mushrooms and I was like, I bet there's photos of Bjork on here. And then there was just a lot of Bjork stuff. And it was just like all these photos of her doing her thing and quotes of hers. I'm there under my name. I'm trying to put together like a teach-in about it this summer that I got to work on. So I don't have a date for that yet. But it's just like in this moment in time where our attention is so scarce, where it's hard to sink into things because we're being bombarded. I go on there, I learn new things, I read articles, I see interesting images, and then I turn it off as soon as I feel ready to because it's not constantly trying to give me the thing that I'm supposed to want next. And it's just also you can like email the people who started it because they're like on the website too. So it's just like it's nice to have that. I talk about it a lot because I'm invested in it on just like a personal level. And I'm just there under Annie Howard under my name, so you can find me there.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for listening.